What is up, guys? So this video is going to be my breakdown with Easter eggs, references, characters who debut, and also review for The Flash Season 5, Episode 12, titled A Girl Named Sue. With that in mind, let's get right into it. So right off the bat, this episode gave us a pretty big character debut, actually two huge character debuts, the first of which is the main villain, or who seems to be the main villain, Eva McCulloch. Now this is a character who doesn't really exist in the comics, however, I mean, she kind of does in the comics. She is a character named Evan McCulloch, not a woman, a man, who is the second Mirror Master after Sam Scudder. Sam Scudder was Barry Allen's Mirror Master. He died in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then once Barry did as well, Wally took over as the Flash, and a couple years later, Evan McCulloch took over as basically Wally's Mirror Master, and was Mirror Master until the New 52 rebooted everything, and then Sam Scudder came back. So that is the character they're using here. They're using Evan McCulloch, but he's being gender bent into Eva McCulloch. And much like Sam Scudder had powers on The Flash, while he didn't in the comics, he has a mirror gun. This version of Mirror Master, or I guess Mirror Mistress, also has powers as opposed to her comic book counterparts. Her powers seem to be different from Sam Scudder. Sam's powers were just that he can walk through mirrors from one mirror to another, maybe even go into the mirror dimension, but she can maybe do that same thing, but also she can manipulate glass, manipulate mirrors, which is, I think, a really cool power that's a lot cooler than what we've previously seen with that other version of Mirror Master, a power that I think could be used a lot more in fight scenes, and maybe much more interesting fight scenes. Regardless, though, this was the debut of who seems to be the main villain of this season. It's not confirmed she's the main villain, however, she is a villain in the comics. I mean, her comic book counterpart is a villain, and also she's a series regular in the season, so I'm guessing she will become the villain of this season. Now, I would say that with Eva's portrayal in this episode, like, she didn't know that Iris would be here, she had no idea that somebody else would be here, and also, she's not exactly a villain yet. I think that it could be possible that either she's hiding something, or maybe somebody else is the villain. If she's hiding something, then I would say that the person who pulled Iris into the mirror world, or the mirror dimension, was indeed Eva, for some sort of ulterior motive, and she's just acting like she doesn't know what's going on, or maybe she doesn't know what's going on, and the person that dragged Iris into the mirror world was not Eva, but maybe it's Evan McCulloch, a person who we may never see on the show, but if we do, it could be pretty damn cool. I think it's probably the former, since Evan McCulloch is nowhere to be seen in any casting or anything, while Eva is a series regular, but I do think that it does bring up the question of what's going on here, because somebody had to pull Iris in, because there were arms made of mirrors that pulled Iris in, and it had to be either Eva, and she's like putting up an act, or somebody else. So not that much longer into the episode, there's this scene of Barry talking to the mirror world version of Iris, and in this scene, he's about to approach her, and he sees this magazine from Catco, which, by the way, that's already a Supergirl connection, but there's another one, which is that the main article from the magazine is of Supergirl, working with the Luthors, working with Lex Luthor, Lillian Luthor, and Lena Luthor, and Barry comments on this as a post-crisis change, and the post-crisis changes get harder and harder to understand, something that the next episode will very much focus on. Now, this is already a Supergirl connection because of Catco, but also because of the fact that Supergirl on Earth Prime worked with Lex Luthor and the right up to the point where she regained her memory, which means that this is an image of the pre-crisis version of Supergirl on Earth Prime. So in that very same scene, Barry had this moment where he said that he's sore from the events of the last week. This is something that's been building up for a while, something that I haven't mentioned yet because I don't know why I haven't mentioned it, I just haven't. But we saw in episode 10 where he lost control of his powers for a second, the last episode where he clearly got very, very tired after running for a bit, even though he was running very, very fast, he's never gotten that tired. And then here where he's still sore from the events of last week, Barry's never been sore before. This is definitely leading into the death of the Speed Force storyline, which is actually a comic book storyline. I actually read this when it came out not very long ago, and I don't know how I didn't remember it when the title came out and when all these things were building up, but very, very recently there was a storyline in the comics where Barry started to slow down a bit. He started feeling the effects of his running, And the reason for this was because there were all these other forces introduced, like the Sage Force and the Strength Force and others, that were basically eating away at the Speed Force, and because of this, it was killing the Speed Force was dying, and Barry was slowing down. What happened was that the Black Flash was sent by the Speed Force to eliminate the other forces. He was sent to kill basically the avatars of the other forces, so that the Flash and the Speed Force can live. Black Flash managed to kill one of the avatars, quote unquote. I mean, they're not really avatars, but I guess that's what I'm calling them. He managed to kill the one of the Sage Force, a man named Psyche, and he died, which severed the connection between the Speed Force and the Sage Force and restored the Speed Force. He didn't actually end up killing the avatars of sorts of the Strength or Still Forces because he didn't need to. The killing of the Sage one was enough, and that was basically the end of the death of the Speed Force storyline, something that they're clearly not only setting up right now, but they're going to get to it in the episode The Death of the Speed Force, where I think it's very, very likely that Black Flash will finally return. Another thing that this could mean is that they're bringing in the other forces, the Sage Force, which gives somebody psychic powers, the Strength Force, which gives somebody exactly what it sounds like, super strength, and then the Still Force, which gives somebody the ability or like manipulation over aging and some sort of manipulation over time and even memory, I'm pretty sure. So I think that that's probably where we're going to be seeing in maybe episode 14, The Death of the Speed Force, the return of Black Flash, some sort of storyline where these other forces are introduced. Maybe the conduits, as they're called, of these forces are introduced as well, and I think that could be very, very interesting. So then we get to the namesake of the episode, the introduction of the wife from the comics of Ralph Dibny, Sue Dearbon, who in the comics, like I said, is the wife of Ralph Dibny. She is better known as Sue Dearbon, as she does change her last name, and she is, before the New 52, she was a socialite, and now in the New 52, she's actually a detective, much like her husband, and it seems like both of those things are being adapted here, as the socialite backstory is either her childhood, or maybe it's some sort of fabricated thing that she came up with. But it does seem like, based off the events of like the last scene of the episode, that she may be a detective. Up until that scene, it seems like she may just wanted to steal just to make money, but based off the ending, it seems like she stole that specific diamond because she wants to go after Black Hole because it was owned by Black Hole, and she's either investigating them or maybe she's doing some detective work on that. And I do think that means something for the character, not only because she's not a villain. I mean, the episode portrayed her as a villain for a couple of minutes after she betrayed Ralph, but in the end it was confirmed that she's not. She's going after Black Hole, which means that also the Team Flash storyline and her storyline will interject at some point, and they will probably team up, and maybe even team up with Team Citizen. Maybe she'll join Team Citizen, and that's when Ralph and Sue will probably get on the same page again, which honestly is something I am looking forward to because I did like their chemistry in this episode very, very much. I'll get to that in the review portion of this video. We do get one reference to the comics of sorts in this storyline, aside from obviously the debut of Sue Dearbon and her relationship with Ralph. There is one character in the storyline that is a clear reference to a character in the comics. That character is Sue's attempted murderer, John Loring. John Loring is not a character of the comics, however, this is a very, very clear reference to the character of Jean Loring, who is the wife, now ex-wife, of Ray Palmer, who went insane and murdered Sue Dearbon. This is a reference to that. It's a clear reference to that because it's the storyline of somebody named John Loring trying to kill Sue Dearbon at this point. And if you're wondering why they gender bend the character, because I mean typically they gender bend from male to female, not the other way around. Well, I think the reason they did this is, one, maybe they wanted to be more subtle than direct, but another reason is that Jean Loring is already a character in the Arrowverse. In fact, she was already two different characters in the Arrowverse, both in the same universe. There was Jean Loring, who has the name, but has nothing to do with Ray Palmer, is a lot older than Ray Palmer, and also is a lawyer in Star City, that is. And then the character who actually took up the role of Jean Loring is Anna Loring, who is the fiancée of Ray Palmer, or was before she was killed by a Miracruz soldier. So instead of using those two characters, one who has nothing to do with Central City and another one who is dead and also wouldn't have anything to do with Central City as well, they opted to use a third new character and for some reason gender bent her. I don't know why, but they did, making John Loring. I think that also beyond being a reference or an Easter egg to Identity Crisis as well as the Jean Loring character, I feel like this is a statement to say that because Identity Crisis is a storyline that drew a lot of controversy, especially for the treatment of the character of Sue Dearbon, this might be a statement saying that this is what we're going to do with this storyline forever. We have John Loring, a version of Jean Loring, who attempts to kill Sue but fails to do so, and this is a statement saying that we're never really going to get to that storyline ever. The only other Easter egg or reference is from the Eva Iris storyline, where Iris mentions the events of the New Rogues episode from Season 3, where Mirror Master Sam Scudder trapped Barry, not in the mirror dimension, it seems like it's a different thing, but he just trapped him in a mirror, and Team Flash had to come up with an idea to get him out. They came up with the idea of freezing the mirror, which actually didn't work until Killer Frost, who at that time was still keeping a secret that she had powers, got him out of there, and now they're doing the same thing. Iris tries to use liquid nitrogen to get out of the mirror, but surprise, surprise, it doesn't work, which she should have expected because the events of that episode, it didn't work. The ice or the liquid nitrogen didn't work until Killer Frost got in, and she was able to make it, I guess, even colder, and that worked. So without Killer Frost, they wouldn't have been able to get out of there. But maybe once Barry, which I'm guessing won't take too long, realizes that Iris is not Iris and that the real Iris is in the mirror dimension, I'm guessing they might end up using Killer Frost to get them out of there, or maybe they're just going to end up using a mirror gun. But I mention this because it is a reference and an Easter egg to an episode in Season 3, and also basically confirms that Sam Scudder, that original version of Mirror Master, still does exist on Earth Prime. So getting to the review portion of this episode, I thought that first of all, the main storyline of the season, the Ralph/Stu storyline, was pretty damn good. I think Sue had a very good introduction in this episode. I think that she's a great character from just this one episode. I think this episode has some pretty great visuals, I would say, and I think Sue could add a lot to this show in terms of visuals, but I also think that the chemistry between Sue and Ralph was pretty damn good, even though technically Sue was, I think, faking a lot of it, which is something that Cecile's telepathy would say something against, which I'm guessing is the reason they put that scene in there, just to show that even after that twist, Sue was probably serious about a lot of it. But anyway, I like their chemistry a lot, I liked Sue a lot, and also the twist, where it turns out that Sue was manipulating Ralph in a way that was so unexpected. I really thought this episode would be very straightforward, where Ralph finds Sue. According to the synopsis, Sue was trying to stay hidden in some sort of way, so that part of it wouldn't be straightforward. But other than that, I thought, they meet, they go on a mission together, and then they probably fall in love or something, and that's it. And the twist was completely unexpected, and I didn't see it coming whatsoever. So kudos to that, because it was a very, very unexpected and very, very well handled twist. Also, I gotta say, after watching this episode in particular, I really, really want an Elongated Man spin-off show. Like, out of all the characters who have ever debuted on The Flash, off the top of my head, Elongated Man is the one that I think deserves a spin-off show the most, especially after this episode where he now has a love interest, a co-star in Sue Dearbon. Again, they work very well with each other. I think that they could work perfectly as the stars of their own show. And while Ralph does work very well on Team Flash, I think that he would work just as well in his own show, and maybe he can become even better as the main character. I just think that after watching this episode, it felt like something that was kind of separate from The Flash, but it could be just as good on its own. So then there's the Iris/Eva storyline, which I thought was fine, definitely better than anything we got in the last episode, but at this point I'm not impressed by Eva. I thought that the acting from the actress was kind of weird in the episode. Like, she touched her hair a lot, like every single time she talked, she touched her hair. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if that's some weird quirk that the character has, like that's some choice by the actor or something, the actress, I don't know, but it was a little bit weird. Overall, I wasn't impressed by her character debut. If this is the main villain of the season, then those rankings I do where I rank the first appearances of the main villains, this would definitely not be up there as one of the better ones. It would probably be very, very low on the list. I also think that this storyline was fairly repetitive. It just kept on going over the same motions of Iris and Eva talking about being stuck in the mirror world, Iris trying to get them out of there. It wasn't really until the last scene where Eva discovers her powers that the storyline got interesting, and other than than that, I thought it was, not a very good storyline. Definitely not as good as the other ones in this episode. And any other scene of storyline in the episode, like the scenes with Barry and Joe, those scenes they're also fine, and they don't really help the episode that much. Definitely the best part of the episode is the Ralph and Sue storyline, which just so happens to be the main storyline, so it definitely is good. With that in mind, I think I'd give this episode an 8.5 out of 10, but let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below, as well as everything I talked about in this video. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.